They seriously expected parades and trophies for pausing a genocide, and other notes. I've seen a lot of Empire loyalists going, "Why aren't the Free Palestine people cheering about the ceasefire?" If you saw a man beating a child into a coma, would you cheer after the beating stopped? No. Your first reaction would be horror at what happened, and your second would be fear that he'll attack the kid again. And then, at some point, you'd start wondering why the guy wasn't in jail. They actually expected a bunch of parades and trophies for pausing a genocide. They thought they'd get applause and adoration, and then everything would go back to how it was pre-2023. That's adorable. That's precious. Not gonna happen, but it's cute that they thought it would. Dropsite News reports that after the ceasefire was announced, Israeli troops went on an arson spree and torched food, homes, and critical infrastructure to ensure that Palestinians would have nothing to return to. I keep thinking the Israeli military has run out of ways to shock me, but they somehow keep finding new ones. TYT's Anna Kasparian was in hot water last week for rubbing her hands together while talking about how creepy and evil Jewish oligarch Larry Ellison is, with critics hastening to compare her depiction of Ellison to the anti-Semitic Happy Merchant meme. Online Zionists eager to stoke the anti-Semitism hysteria actually went out of their way to digitally insert the Happy Merchant meme into the actual footage of Kasparian's portrayal, which was probably done to show the similarities between the portrayal and the meme, but in practice made it look as though TYT had displayed an anti-Semitic graphic during their show. There is no reason to believe Kasparian was being anti-Semitic with her portrayal of Ellison, who is indeed creepy and evil. Ask a small child to imitate someone who is wicked and sneaky, and they'll rub their hands together looking sinister in the exact way Kasparian did without knowing anything about Jews or Judaism. The only reason anyone felt the need to insert the Happy Merchant meme into the footage in the first place was because hardly anyone knows what the fuck that is. This has gotten so fucking stupid. You can't even talk like a normal person in real time without getting accused of doing an anti-Semitic trope. Nobody can keep track of every little thing on the ADL no-no list. These freaks were accusing Greta Thunberg of being a Nazi for taking a pro-Palestine photo with an octopus plushie, because apparently octopuses are somewhere on the no-no list. You're expected to tiptoe around and avoid any reference to money, noses, blood, and who knows whatever the fuck else. Penguins, poodles, IKEA furniture, no one knows. Nobody can keep track of all that shit, especially when speaking in a real-time format and you don't have time to pause and research whether a certain normal hand gesture is on the anti-Semitic trope list. It's an absurd dynamic designed to stagnate all conversation around criticisms of genocide, empire, and oligarchy. I got into an interaction with someone online who told me I should hate Hamas because they are a proscribed terrorist group. I said, "Oh, well, if the government says we have to hate Hamas, then I stand corrected." He said it had nothing to do with the government, arguing that it was just common sense, after literally having just cited the prescription of Hamas by his government. It's amazing how common this viewpoint is. Westerners actually think terrorist is some kind of innate quality that certain groups have, instead of a completely made-up designation imposed by specific governments. They don't understand that it's a government-applied label. They think it's something that those groups actually are. They are so herd-like in their thinking that they actually allow their rulers to interpret reality on their behalf. They don't even know they're doing it. The overwhelming majority of the world's governments do not consider Hamas a terrorist group. It's a label that's only applied by the Five Eyes states, the EU, Japan, a couple of the empire's Latin American client states, and Israel. For everyone else, it's just a Palestinian armed resistance group. In the U.S. centralized empire, terrorist just means a population which poses an inconvenience to the interests of the empire. It's not a real thing. The UK designated Palestine Action a terrorist group because its activists put paint on some warplanes to protest a genocide, while an actual, literal al-Qaeda leader has been warmly embraced by Western states because he facilitated their regime change objectives in Syria. There are no consistent standards by which Iran's IRGC should be considered a terrorist group, while Israel's IDF and Mossad should not. Anyone who regurgitates the word terrorist is just telling you they're a mindless and compliant empire drone. The Gaza Holocaust will be a litmus test for high-profile figures for decades. Everyone's comments or lack thereof on Israel's genocidal atrocities will be looked up and amplified whenever their name rises to public attention. It will be the first step in determining whether anyone deserves to be listened to, taken seriously, or voted for. Their comments on Gaza in the mid-2020s will be the first gate through which they must pass to be considered worthy of attention by normal people. Someone asked me, "Why do you care so much about Palestine?" I told them ultimately it's not even especially about Palestine. I care about humanity. I don't want my kids and grandkids living in the kind of world that would watch civilians get ripped to shreds in full view of the entire planet with the support of my government and its allies. I think that's pretty reasonable.